This is what it sounds like when life-changing treatment feels more than treatment.
The people at Turning Winds are like family to us.
Welcome to the Turning Winds podcast. My name is Kevin Zundel. Turning Winds has a full continuum of care for teens who would benefit from that extra support clinically and academically. Today I speak with a family who made the decision to do something to help their son and wanted to share their journey to help the next family in need. Thank you for taking the time with me today. What was it like in the beginning in terms of the discussions you had as parents and figuring out, is this something that needs to be addressed and where do we go next?
Yeah, I have to say this is the most meaningful part of our story because we resisted for a very long time. We tried a lot of things, worked with a lot of specialists, and it wasn't until administrators at our son's school and the pediatrician simultaneously said, "You're doing the best you can, and now you need to let someone else help." And so began our search for where to go and what kind of help. And Alan and I took a road trip to look at 3 different places. And we did that privately. We didn't tell anybody that's what we were doing, but we had been praying earnestly for clarity in what to do. And so as we went to different places, one of the places we went to, they gave us very vague directions. Turn by the big tree and the red barn and then go down this hill. And we had no cell service. And there was a backhoe, right? Backhoe?
Yeah.
In the middle of the road that we needed to go down. And it was pouring rain, blocking the road. We set out on foot. We found a place to leave our car. We set out on foot and down this big hill and decided, no, this was definitively not the place. This was not the right place. And the second place we went to, we had cell coverage up to a point, and then we lost cell coverage, had to turn around to figure out directions to get there. We were late. We were anxious because we were late. And again, we walked away shaking our heads going, this feels so wrong. We're doing the wrong thing. And we had to sleep overnight because our appointment at Turning Winds wasn't until the next day. And I'll tell you that there were a lot of tears shed and a lot of uncertainty about whether we were doing the right thing at all. And we contemplated do we even finish this process of looking tomorrow? Tomorrow came and we walked into Turning Winds and it felt like family. We were greeted with open arms and they listened. As much as anything, they listened. And I remember distinctly walking out of the office after several hours. We were there for hours. Walking out of the office, holding each other's hands, we looked at each other on the sidewalk and said, this is it. And as we drove home, we had come several states away. And as we drove home, Alan turned to me and he said, do you get it? And I was like, get what? And he said, don't you get it? We had clarity. There was literally a backhoe in the road blocking the way. We got lost with directions. So it became very clear to us that we were doing the right thing, and we left in peace, knowing that we would be doing the right thing for our son. Sharing that news with him, we weren't sure which way it would go. We thought she might run away and we might never see him again. And so we chose to have support in letting him know. And his reaction was never something we could have even imagined. His reaction was one of relief. And he shed tears and didn't balk at the idea at all. That was not what we had anticipated whatsoever. Yeah. We knew we were definitely doing the right thing.
And it wasn't just administration. When we visited with them, just the whole vibe of the kids actually seemed happy. Whereas the first two places, it was like dreary, miserable.
Yeah, and I get to speak to alumni now and then too who join on the podcast, and it's really amazing to see just how developed they are in so many ways in their heads, and it's hard to imagine them in any place other than that, since they have their heads on so straight. They're focused and they live with intent and gratitude, which is obviously, as a parent, like just something you really like to see. And then once you're part of the process and in treatment as a family, what was your sort of experience? Is it went along in the beginning and then throughout towards the end?
I would say that at the beginning, it was very emotional. I think that we learned along the way to let go of some of the control that we were trying to impose, and learned that connection in the midst of all the chaos was really what he needed. And so we listened carefully whenever we met with him and tried to take to heart the things that he said to us, as well as the counselors and other people that we met along the way. But I would say for us, one of the greatest things was learning that control really wasn't going to be of help.
And when were moments that really gave you hope?
I'd say that one of them was when we visited, and I think we heard our son talk more in one short visit than we'd heard for a year. He was proud to show us around, to tell us about the things he'd been doing. That was not part of our ordinary life.
He looked healthier and happier. He really enjoyed the outdoor activities and building the trail that they were working on. And Enoch and Owen just said how he thrived with doing the activity. And yeah, he just seemed happy.
But we were intrigued by the fact that he was learning the most outdoors, much more than indoors. And that gave way to an understanding of him that we hadn't had before.
And yeah, we connected with him much more.
What's interesting to see too, I mean, with anyone, but when you're looking at teens specifically, sometimes they're very shut down. And then the moments that they are into what you were talking to, engaged and proud, those are some of the best moments as parents. And I'm sure it was validation for the entire sort of journey that you went through. Did you see other ways that maybe the way that he self-identified before, maybe before treatment, saw himself one way and then maybe developed in other areas? Or were there areas such as academics too that maybe were struggling before and then maybe saw himself as someone who can do this stuff?
Yeah. The academics was huge because we knew from the time he was very little that he was very capable of doing schoolwork, and that was not evident by the time he reached the point where we decided that treatment was necessary. He was failing all of his classes, and we couldn't understand why. And when he came to Turning Winds and had the opportunity to really dig in, focus, he managed to finish a year's worth of work in less than 6 months. And he was proud of that. He didn't like school before, and I wouldn't say that he really loved school necessarily while he was at Turning Winds, but he was very proud to be accomplished, got to graduate there at Turning Winds, had a graduation ceremony, which was super cool for us. Yeah. Other things that strike me really is that he became a leader there at Turning Winds. And that was something that was remarked upon from the very beginning, that he stepped into a leadership role. And we got to see a little bit of that, but we certainly got to hear a lot about it. That was very inspiring.
And how's he doing now?
He's doing fantastic. We thought we saw him go from being a boy to a man while he was at Turning Winds. He's truly a man. He's responsible. He's had the same job since he left Turning Winds. And it's been almost 10 years.
Speak to others who are out there and listening, and maybe they found this podcast because they're just trying to figure out how to parent their teen and confused and struggling. What would you tell them in terms of looking at treatment and how to look at what you went through? If you're sitting across the table from me and knowing that I'm going through stuff, what would be the best advice you can give?
I would recommend you visit and just see what's going on there. And again, for us, the vibe of the kids was so important, as well as the staff, just being upbeat, and just it made us feel totally comfortable.
Yeah, I would agree. The visitation made a huge difference for us.
I was resistant to the whole thing until visiting there.
What gave you pause?
Not wanting to ship them off somewhere. Again, just being concerned how that would affect our relationship and everything from then on.
Yeah, there was a lot of fear on our part that we were going to do damage. And I would counter that with, we got so much more. We got our son back. We have a relationship beyond compare now. Some of the things that he didn't used to do that he does now. He didn't used to be a physically affectionate person, and he definitely is now. But in terms of advice for others, I'm still thinking about that and thinking, know that there is chaos. We had no idea the level of chaos that was in our home until we changed it. Once we allowed our son to get the treatment he needed, we also had the opportunity to take an inward look at our own relationship. And there was quiet in our house that we had not experienced for years. And so if I think about that, I know that's the case for so many parents. There's so much chaos and there's so much uncertainty. But we were so certain, and it was so clear to us that Turning Winds was definitely the right choice. And looking back 10 years, we are repeat visitors at our son's request, our son and his wife. And they invited us to go along on the last 2 trips. And it's something that we all look forward to. It's definitely, we consider the people at Turning Winds are like family to us.
If you are listening to this, my hope is that it plants a seed of hope in your head. Take a second and give Turning Winds a call to share what's happening in your situation. The number is 800-845-1380. I'll say it again. 800-845-1380. Do that, and I invite you to listen to the many podcasts in this series and check out the wealth of resources available to you at turningwinds.com.